You're right, mate.
Hello. Welcome
Yo.
back. It's the finale. It's the final episode of the more important show, Stuff Camera Survivor. It's the Backbenchers podcast final episode, and I'm here with two amazing people. We've got Double J's in the house. Josh from Backyard Season 4. I'm literally watching it right now. How are you going?
Good. Yes. Sad to see that this season has ended. I loved it. I thought it was an amazing season. And I'm so happy I've been invited to give my opinions. Yeah, it's great.
We love it. And a constant staple of mine, almost like a dynamic duo this entire season. We got Jordo, and he's dressed up. He's completely shown me out the door with an amazing outfit. How are we going, Jordo?
Look, it's the final night. It's the finale. We get to talk to the Queen tonight, so I had to dress up in my sequins. We opened the podcast in my blue sequins, and I finished in my more elegant sequins. So why not? I can't believe we're here. I can't believe it's the final episode. It's weird. It's gone so quick.
Yeah, it feels weird that we don't have another one on Friday. I'm gonna have to find something else to do. Normally people are going out and having a social life. I'm just stuck watching LRG. So, but yeah, obviously, it's been Jordan's been on the podcast a little bit, and Josh, you haven't been on in a while. What do we think about the end of the season, the finale in general, and just our general thoughts? Josh, what did you think?
Yeah, I thought it was great. I loved going into the final five. It sort of felt, it could still be anybody's game to win. And I was really happy that we had Eden and Bethany there. I was rooting for my underdogs from from early on. So I was just hoping please one of them make the final three.
Yeah, it was good to have those people you could root for, and they were definitely ones from the get-go. Jordo, did you have going into that finale? Did you have someone that you were rooting for? Did it turn out how you wanted it? What was your thoughts on the finale as a whole?
Not necessarily anyone. I just the final five were pretty cool, and any of them could have won. I was just on the edge of my seat. It was a 2-hour episode, and an hour in, I was messaging Dan going, "I can't cope with this. This is all too much." I just didn't know where it was going to go. And then I reckon we could have had another extra 2 hours on top of that episode. I just wanted to keep it going. It was a pretty cool episode.
Yeah, it was a lot of action. That's something that I really loved about the finale. I feel like some of its finales can fall a little bit flat and it needs a lot of editing to make it work. But I feel like there was a lot of epicness for this season. We got Quacky in the house, a constant here. I was rooting for the croissant, the fallen angel of the season. Rip the croissant. Winner of my mountain, though, so congratulations to the croissant. I hope it's enjoying its life. Oh, look at there. We got also Sab here with shining bright in your sequence, Jordan. Give it a little love there.
Oh, Sab, not as bright as you on the episodes, darling. It was good to watch you.
And also here, quick message from Mal, which obviously we shouted out Mal in the challenges before, but I just want to give a particular shout out to Simon and Carleen. I didn't know who was doing the challenges. I just saw Mal on the credit list. So just want to give a shout out to the challenge team in general. I felt like they've done amazing stuff. And, well, that's weird. Ma here with Ma Mountain is not a thing. That's weird. I'm pretty confident it was proven literally yesterday that you come inside me and pick the mountain for me.
Wow.
So it's a whole thing. So I don't know. She's trying to deny it. She's been exposed last week. We saw the behind-the-scenes clip. It's been exposed. So I'm just going to ignore Ma. Ma Mountain's done. Your time is done. We're moving on to more important things. And we also got the viewer awards, the more important thing, the viewer awards tonight, which would be cool. Getting to finally reveal who the hero of the season is, who the villain of the season is. Super excited. Let's talk about the final three. So obviously last night we discussed kind of the boys discussed up to around the Final Trouble Council. What do we think about Final Trouble Council? Often in the LRG space, sometimes the final three can... It's very hard to perform at a Final Trouble Council, and it can take a lot, and it's a lot of nerves and tough questions and all that kind of stuff. How did you think they all handled it? And what did you think the overall thoughts of the Final Trouble Council and how it went?
Well, I when I was watching it, like they all sort of had their answers, but like nothing sort of stood out to me where I'd be like, okay, yeah, they've got it just by that answer. They all sort of like were saying they're getting their point across, but as I was watching, I'm like, well, how is this going to turn out? Because nothing really jumped out at me. But yeah, all three of them had like different, different stories and different reasons for why they should have won, and all three of them deserved to be there. So yeah, it was just a matter of which way the votes went after that.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. I thought going in, I was like, oh, like, I don't know. I felt like, I was expecting Bethany to come out like harder, to be honest. And then everybody was just so respectful and, all in such like good sport. Like it felt like, obviously they all were there and they wanted to win, but it felt like no one was being cutthroat. They all respected each other's games. And nothing got nasty or snappy. Like it was just such a nice ending, and it just like flowed well. But yeah, I was expecting a little bit more like drama maybe, but
especially from Oscar, expecting him to sort of give a bit more beef. But yeah, he was sort of tame and sort of just fledged his case, and
it's it obviously depends on cast to cast. You can kind of have different reactions from the jury, and even for example, I felt like someone that maybe had the most right to kind of have a bit of an aggressive approach for their jury question was definitely Loz, in regards to the stuff that happened. And I felt like she actually handled it in a way that like she questioned Bethany in a way that like she did ask the hard-hitting question, but she didn't do it in a way that felt very like dismissive or rude or passive aggressive. I didn't really feel like there was like, it felt like there was feeling behind it, but it didn't really feel super aggressive or over the top. We've had a few questions in previous seasons where it felt a bit of an attack, but I felt like Loz did really well at handling herself in a way of like presenting herself and processing like why she was kind of annoyed, but still getting a good question that allowed Bethany to answer. And what do you guys think of that whole scenario?
Well, Loz has been like that through the whole series, though. She's sort of just straight to the point and gets her point across. So yeah, I wanted her to give a bit more. Like, come on, let's be a bit more aggressive, darling. They voted you out. But no, it was funny how like a few of them were just like, I don't have a question, just well done for being here. So yeah.
I thought I was expecting Loz to be a bit more villainous. But I think maybe she got out all of that sort of venom in her final words about Pauline and the croissant. That was funny.
Although didn't Loz say that she wasn't going to vote for Beth and Ed if they were in the final two, or something like that? And then she voted for Beth.
She did say that in an exit confessional, but I always feel like that's always the early steam you have to let off, and then you kind of get back to logical as you get back to the world. But that's something I wanted to speak about. Is often a question I love thinking about is like how set in stone a jury is heading into a final tribal council. Like often you have ones where it's very open and every single person generally goes in being like, I don't know who I want to vote for. And you have other people that are pretty set in their ways and it's pretty hard to maneuver. I definitely feel like Oscar, for example, didn't have many set votes, whereas I felt like Ed and Bethany had people you could consider like, unless she colossally stuffs up or unless Ed says something crazy, like he's probably going to get, John's probably going to vote for Ed and Eden's probably going to vote for Bethany, et cetera, et cetera. Do you think that that's something that wasn't considered too much, particularly by Oscar, I feel like? Because like for me, I felt like the Pauline thing was very interesting because I understand that if he brings Pauline, she's brought him there. But I also feel like he was very underestimating Bethany's, like her jury management and how many people were on her side in that jury. What do you guys think about that as a whole?
Josh, you go.
You go.
I don't know. Like Bethany obviously played the game the whole way through and it was being honest, and so she sort of had that. I think people sort of looked at it that way. Oscar sort of played his game and was a bit more abrupt at times. And then there was obviously Ed, who just was Ed. He got through how he was. So it's sort of hard to tell to see how they were going to vote, as I said earlier. So I reckon Bethany deserved it, but it could have gone anywhere with how the jury perceived their game, and how because Oscar obviously said he'd get rid of Pauline because of that reason, but then Pauline was also going to get rid of Eden earlier and save Sab, and then she's got rid of Sab instead. So it was all sort of, there was many reasons that the jury could have voted how they did.
Yeah, and I felt like, obviously, it's different as a viewer watching it than it is for the people there, but I did feel like, to me, it seemed so obvious that Eden or Bethany was the front runner, but it just seemed like people were really underestimating them both, but especially Bethany. And I just think, it just shows how throughout the season, her social game was just so amazing. And the way she spoke, it was almost like, she's telling people like, oh, I'm not a threat and da-da-da-da, and they're believing what she's saying. She was almost like gaslighting or like grooming them into agreeing with what she was like forcing into their brains in a nice way. Like gaslighting and grooming sounds a bit bad, a bit sinister, but like in a good way,
in a loving way.
But at the same time, I don't think she was a threat. So like she was honest in that. Like I never saw her as a threat through the whole game, and so that's why she managed to get where she was, because she played honestly. And I never saw her as like someone that would want to vote her out straight away. You know what I mean?
100%. And it's a great. I'm a king of transitions, and I love that we have someone waiting in the wings. I just felt this energy of just all of a sudden success and a vibe of victory was entering the podcast, and that's because we got Bethany. Hello. It's so lovely to meet you. I'm a big fan of your work. How are you today?
Thank you. I'm good. It's been very fun, like watching it all back and reliving it. It feels different watching it as well. Like on the day, it didn't really feel very real, but now it does.
It most definitely does. So obviously a huge win. I felt like a lot of people felt a deserving win. Going into that Final Trouble Council, how were you feeling? Were you feeling like all you had to do was explain yourself and you had the game in the bag? Were you feeling nervous? Or where was your head at going into that final three?
Yeah, so at that point, like going into the final three, you've done everything, and now it's just up to you to talk through your game, right? The mother is here, yes. So like I was prepared, I think, to talk through all the points that made up my game. I felt like I was clear on what my game was, and that like I felt like I had played not a perfect game, because I voted wrong a bunch of times, but I felt like I played exactly how I thought I was going to play, which is playing that social strategy game, really relying on connecting with the right people as well, because it's all very well and good making an ally, but if they suck, then that's not going to help you. So I felt like I did a good job talking through all those points. I will say, to Jordan's point before, saying that Bethany was never a threat, that's exactly the game that I was playing. It's called threat management. I purposely didn't ever want to put myself in a position where like all eyes were on me. I didn't want to be that person like the Eden standing up and playing idols and advantages. Like that would have been so stressful, and would have ruined my game. I didn't want to be like the person winning the challenges. I didn't want to be the one like pushing names and telling people who to vote for and being bossy, or being like too much of a like a puppet master. I feel like playing the middle and managing your threat is like a really valid way to play a game of Survivor. And I felt like I did that. And I felt like I explained that to the jury. And hopefully they felt like Jordan, that I was underestimated. And then I think I proved why I was playing like that. Does that make sense?
No, it makes total sense. So yes, and obviously the jury did think you were playing a great game and wanted you to win.
Thank God they did.
I definitely I feel like there's definitely a relief after you get that win and the votes are ready. That's the instant feeling. What was the process after? Did you? I feel like every player goes through that where they unravel and they go through all the what ifs. But when you win, people say, "Oh, you've won. There's nothing really to consider." But I don't believe that. I think there's definitely things you think about. What was the process post game?
Well, like something to know about me is that I'm not like a huge deep overthinker, and I feel like that also reflects my game. Like that lets me not overthink things too much and be able to be adaptable and be fluid. So I didn't really think too much about it after I'd won. I do agree though that other people obviously did, like, because they think, oh well, if I'd just done this here or just done this here, or I feel like I didn't really ever have to have those conversations with myself. So
I love that. I thought that's a good thing. Why not? Jordo and Josh, any questions that come to mind? I'll leave it to you guys.
Yeah, well, I have more of a statement first, like some of the people in the jury. But no, I've been the biggest Bethany fan this season. I've slid into your DMs and said I was rooting for you. Yeah, I just really admired your game from the beginning, and I could see like the little things in the edit, like they were setting you up for like such an like underdog story, and I'm like, I can see you winning, and I'm putting all my money on you. So amazing.
Well, it did feel like on the weekend, it really did feel like I felt like I was playing from the bottom, like a lot of the way through the game. So it did feel kind of like an underdog. So I feel like me and Eden had a really good storyline throughout that season.
And you were the only female sitting at the end. And then you were the last remaining member of the World Tribe. So, do you think that played into it as well, like into your underdog narrative?
Yeah, I think a little bit. Like it was like it was said on the show, like it was quite unlikely that given like the way when we merged, the way things were looking, it was not looking good for us. But I think both Eden and I had done like a lot of work and made all those bonds with people. And then like again, like the people that we hadn't met on day one, like especially for me, for the relationship I had with Pauline was like crucial, because once I got to a point where I could no longer rely on Eden when he was ready to turn on me, I already had built in that next person that was ready to ride for me. And I feel like Pauline did that, like at the end. Like she could have easily just thrown me under the bus if she wanted to keep Oscar, but didn't.
Yeah. And Loz mentioned something in the comments, and I wanted to ask, because when Loz got voted out, I think she made a comment where she thought that you had voted her out, but you actually didn't.
Never. I would never, ever. Like it would never have even crossed my mind to write her name down. That was all on Ed.
Yeah, that shocked me that he flipped on her and you said loyal, and you like copped the blame for that. So did Lauren find that out on the jury, and did that sway her into voting for you to win? Because she seemed very upset by that, and especially with your narrative and chats saying like, us girls needs to stick together and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I 100% assume that Eden filled Loz in and told Loz that actually it was Eden that did that. Eden that flipped Ed. Like it was my intention. It was never my intention to vote for her. The only time I voted for a woman at all, the whole game, was the Sab vote. So, and I feel like everyone thought that Sab was a threat. So,
yeah, especially at that time.
And can I quickly say, there was the thing how I said early on that in LRGs, there's always this narrative of when people are like, oh, I made so much effort to fly here from interstate or wherever. That usually is like a nail in the coffin and they go home because of that. But you came the furthest out of anybody from New Zealand and you won. It's amazing. You broke the LRG curse.
I feel like other than like the very first round where Squin was on my neck about sucking in challenges, I felt like other than that, my name wasn't really brought up. And that was the only, like that first vote was the only vote that I was really super worried that I was going to go home and I would have wasted all this time and effort coming and flying from overseas. And yeah.
But your name only came up because Aiden got stressed at the last minute and just threw your name in there.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the only vote you got. So
yeah. That was the only, like, I only caught that one vote the whole time, which I think is a good social game, right?
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah. Going back to when sort of that tribal council where Pauline was telling you that Eden was going to vote for you, what was going through your head then? Because obviously you were panicked and you didn't know what was going on. There was lots of whispers. What was going through at that point?
So at that point, I was pretty sure I knew where Ed had voted, because Ed kind of most of the time did exactly what he said he was going to do. So I was pretty sure that Ed had voted for Oscar. I knew I had voted for Oscar. Pauline obviously knew that she and Oscar had voted together. So the hang on. Yeah, that's right. Because the 2 Oscar votes got negated, and then it was Pauline and Oscar's 2 Eden votes. So before she brought the idol out, she whispered to me and she said, "Did you vote how you said you were going to vote?" And I was like, "I absolutely did." And you could see us like holding hands, like we both knew that like this was like a crucial point for the 2 of us, like because we had several conversations about how we both thought we needed to be there with each other at the end to sort of stand a chance.
Yeah.
So at that point we were both really riding for each other, and I thought that she had my back. I didn't know necessarily that Eden was going to turn on me, but you know, that would that have been the best move for him? I don't know. I feel like.
Well, I didn't like that for him anyway. Sorry, go.
Do you think if it was you and Eden sitting at the end next to each other, do you think you would have beat him? Like, let's say if it was like you, Eden, and Oscar, or do you think that you both siphon votes away from each other, and then maybe like Oscar wins or Ed wins, just being the sole then representative from the other original?
Yes. I think there were always going to be people on the jury that weren't going to vote for Eden or I, no matter what, right? Like, so people that we hadn't necessarily spent a lot of time with, like Andrew, or people like Todd or John, who kind of technically we were responsible for their fate. I feel like we wouldn't, like him, Eden and I were never going to get those votes. So it would have been really risky for us to sit together and to split the votes that the 2 of us would have had. And so like it was really great for me that Pauline put him on the jury. I'm like that was a crucial vote for me to win. So
a question that I have from like, when we spoke to Eden last night, which I thought was interesting, is he said that as soon as he found out you were on, he wanted you out first, and then he thought he was surprised that he just how good you were at managing to get him to work with you, and then by the time you were his number one, he was like, "How the hell has this happened?" Talk about your relationship with Eden from the start to where it built, and just like how that helped you throughout the game.
Yes, so when I got onto the World Tribe to start with, like even just from eyeing people up, I could kind of tell like who I wanted to sort of speak to first and who I wanted to make moves with. And like definitely Anthea, like she stood out to me as someone who I 100%, she looks just like the kind of person that you know that like you can rely on in a game. And then like obviously Maddie had all like the personality and stuff. The Eden thing, like if I like playing, like having played like lots of kind of online games and like minis and orgs and whatever, that Eden archetype is so like someone that I'm familiar with, like and so like I knew looking at him that he was going to be like a great ally but also a great shield, like because he is he's a Leo, so he wants to be like making the big flashy moves and like playing idols and like standing up and challenge in tribals and like, you know, playing an advantage and walking off. So like that's the ideal person to be in a ride or die alliance with, because they're gonna be ballsy and play stuff for you if they've got it right, but all the attention is on them, and they're always gonna get hit first before you. So
True.
Yeah, a good question here. It's a bit long, but I'll just summarize it from Zach. He basically was talking about the final votes. Obviously, it was a 4-2-2. Let's say in a hypothetical world that it was a split between either you and Oscar or you and Ed. Do you feel like Oscar and Ed would have voted for you if it was a split and they were the last? Do you remember? Did you feel like you had that, or not sure?
So I, when I won the final immunity, right, I put in a lot of work with Ed. So thinking that I was going to be putting him on the jury, I put in a lot of work with him to try and make sure he was going to be a vote for me, because we had been together since the swap, right? And we had been working pretty closely. So I feel like if it was Ed, he would have voted for me. Oscar, I think so too. Like there were definitely crucial things like strategically that happened that Oscar needed me as part of that, you know, to make that happen. Like the Todd vote, for example, and throwing the challenge to make sure we got Sab out, you know. So I feel like Oscar would have recognized the game aspect if it had been up to him to cast that final vote. I feel like the jury, the votes on the jury were tricky. Like I feel like I went in knowing that Ed was definitely going to get 2 votes. I thought I was definitely getting 2 votes, and then I had no idea what was happening with Oscar. Like I think you guys said this at the start. Like it was really hard to pick where those like Andrew and Sab and Aiden, like who fucking would have guessed that Adam would have voted for me to win? But yes, he did. Thank goodness for Aiden.
Well, he did like you the whole way through. He only, as I said, he only voted for you at that moment because he was stressed and didn't know what was going on. So he voted for you to save himself, and it didn't work anyway. So So I think he had your back the whole time.
Yeah, I don't know if he had my back. I'm pretty sure we were always on opposite sides of every alliance. I don't think we ever voted together, but
True.
But yeah, so obviously, your life has changed forever. You've won
$200, Australian dollars.
But talk to me, other than the money, talk to me about what you gained from the experience and how different your life's been since the whole process, and even watching yourself on YouTube and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, like I think definitely, it's not something I would have ever had signed up for, say like 5 years ago, before I sort of started playing a few online games during COVID and whatever. Like I have always watched Survivor, but I never ever would consider doing it. I'm not like an outdoorsy person. Staying overnight outdoors in Australia was so terrifying. Like the noises, I just can't. But yeah, like I mean, in terms of like obviously I went back and helped participate on the crew for season 4, which was very fun. And I feel like it's, you know, like even though I'm not there, I feel like I'm still part of the like Survivor Canberra community. And yeah, and I've made some good friends. I've had visits from people. I've had visits from Pauline. I've had a visit from Maddie. Yeah.
Cute. What was your favorite moment of the weekend and of the season? Like what stands out to you as being your favorite part?
My favorite part was probably just being with Eden the whole weekend, because we had so much fun together. Like, we obviously both really love Survivor, and like love it in like a kind of, it's not a normal way, like a way too dorky way. So it's kind of fun to do that together. Like my favorite moment in the game was definitely when we voted out John the first time. And just like having that conversation with Loz, like that was just like I don't even know if the feeling of that came across on the screen, but it was just like such a relief, like to find someone that was willing to like even if you weren't aligned with them, for them to be open to working with you and to like look at you as a good ally, look at you as a worthy like competitor in the game. So yeah, that was probably my favorite moment, because I feel like that turned like the game on like to full for me. Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
And I was wondering, how did you come across Survivor Canberra to apply for, because coming from New Zealand, there's all the different, LRGs across the country. How did you end up on Canberra?
Well, the host, Daniel, was one of the people that I sort of started playing, and back in 2020 started playing online sort of online reality games. So we kind of were friends from there, and I had originally actually applied for season 2 and was cast on season 2, but then couldn't travel because of the borders being shut, because they opened it for a while and then they shut it again. So God knows what would have happened if I had been on that season, because I feel like that season was way harder.
That was intense, that season, yes.
That's what would have happened.
Oh my God. I'm imagining now seeing you playing with like Woofy and Mel,
imagine that.
Nick and
Imagine.
Mark. That would have been crazy.
Yeah. They would have driven me insane, those people. Yeah. Like, imagine me on a tribe with Nick and with James. Gone crazy with Malcolm. I would have lost it.
All the alpha males, you would have
Yeah.
been.
I probably would have been the first boot.
Well, see, it all worked out well, didn't it? Because now you've won season 3, and that was where you were meant to be.
Yeah, exactly.
So something that I loved about your journey, just in general this season, was the strength of the females on the cast, and your openness to discuss topics. There's things that you guys have to experience that I know men didn't have to experience in the game, and I feel like that's, if sometimes when you bring that stuff up, you could be seen as someone that's complaining or someone that's bringing up issues. I really liked the way you brought that up. Talk to me about that experience and just generally playing with such strong female cast on your season.
And I felt like I wasn't even necessarily bringing it up from a point of complaining. I felt like I just really had to get it out and explain like that this is what I was feeling and this is what I feel. So like, you know how like they always say, oh, Survivor's like a microcosm, it's supposed to feel like the real world, it does feel like stuff like that is amplified within a game. So like if you experience things like that in your daily life and then you come and sort of experience them here, and it's not necessarily that like I found any of the men that were in the game abhorrent or anything. It's just like, it's just that feeling of like, oh, like my voice is never going to be loud enough in this group to like get across what I want, or like just like like the perception of me is never like, am I ever going to be able to sit at the end next to these people and beat them? Because like tons of times when we've watched Survivor, like how many times have we watched Survivor when a woman's got to the end with a man and they've played a way worse game and somehow the man still wins. Like, so I think I was just really conscious of that, and I was really conscious that we were all like spending like this time together, and I wanted to like make sure that it meant something. Do you know what I mean? Like, and at that point, actually, I didn't know that Ma had won, so I was like, I just really want a woman to win. I don't care if it's me. I'm quite happy for it to be Loz. I'm quite happy for it to be Pauline. I just want to see like us rise to the top together. And I really tried hard to do that. Really tried hard not to vote any of them out. Especially like after, so aside from Jay, like the first 5 boots were all women. So like that just does not feel good. And like that, that they're getting voted out because, oh, they're too nice, like too social, too nice, or too much of a threat, or too good at challenges, or any of those things. Like it doesn't matter what you are, like it's just, you're going to catch the bullet.
Yeah, I definitely feel like, and I said, bringing that stuff up was I feel like it led to discussions, and I think that's cool, and I definitely agree that it's something that is frustrating.
Yeah.
That happens in LRGs. I feel like it's common that female players often the pre-merge is filled with a lot of really great female players, and so I think it's great. You and Ma are great representatives. Loz is a great representative, and
I think most of the women on this cast were like pretty strong. Like I think the casting pool was just so excellent for this season. And I really hope we can get more women to apply for the next season.
Yes.
So please send in your application. You have 3 weeks. You have until Christmas.
Please. Anyone hasn't applied, please.
Yeah, and I felt like it was like the casting process is so thoughtful, and like the crew are so not accommodating, but like they're just aware of a lot of things. So like it feels like it's a safe space in terms of playing orgs. Like that you're not gonna get done really dirty. I mean, even thank goodness Daniel edited it the way he did, because the thing I was most worried about, and this is I feel like something that probably is more for women than men, was fucking video footage of me online crawling across that balance beam that I couldn't walk across. That was probably the thing that stressed me out the most about seeing my game. Was, oh my God, I'm going to get this horrific edit of me like not being able to cross a balance beam. But it was done carefully,
That was a funny one. Everyone running around, and then there's you still trying to get. You got a little bit further each time. It was just,
it was just so hard
to the end of that balance beam. Oh, so funny.
It's a journey. You got there in the end. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely. It's so sorry, Jordan.
No, keep going.
I was just going to say that it's. I 100% agree with you about the community. I feel like Canberra is a really safe community where anyone that's keen to play, they'll let you in with open arms and let you have a really great experience. And I highly agree with you. Suggest anyone, particularly strong females, if you are any interest at all. Bethany is proof. Loz is proof. Pauline is proof that there's some fantastic people that can play, and so we'd love to have you on. Thank you so much for giving us your time. I know you're in between a bunch of things right now, and you got flights or something going on. But we really appreciate it, and we'll hopefully see you around in the community and maybe play again sometime in the future.
Well, look, I don't know about that. I was pretty traumatized, but I feel like there's enough distance now between it that maybe I could do it again.
Hey,
I just want to know before you go, what did you spend your money on? What did you spend your wins on?
Do you know what I actually spent my money on was my shoes were so disgusting that I threw them away at the airport and bought a new pair of shoes at the depot. Because they were, even just from that small amount of rain, they were such a fucking mess. And I'm like, the New Zealand border patrol's not going to let me through with all this mud on my shoes. So
love that.
Sneakers, yeah.
Awesome.
Well, we love that. Talk about a bougie purchase.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you so much, Bethany. We'll see you very soon. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Good to chat to you.
Oh, that was lovely. That was lovely. We're going to split things up. Actually, no, we're not, because he's here right on time. Literally perfect timing. We're going to welcome in another big star, a huge fan favorite of the show. We're going to whack in Oscar. Oscar, there you go, man.
Hello.
Hello.
Perfect timing. We're going to welcome in. Someone's playing. I heard my own voice. Anyway, Oscar, how are we going, man? Are we excited to get into it?
Hello, how are you going? Sorry, I had my laptop on mute.
It's okay. How are we going today? And are we excited to get into the season and chat all about it?
Yeah, really excited, really keen.
So the first question I have, which I'll always love, is talk to me about watching back what you experienced, what was that experience like? Did you tell many of your friends and family about how you went? Were they surprised? How did you feel about how it was portrayed, and particularly just how your game laid out?
Yeah, I felt it was definitely better than I expected to watch it back. I wasn't sure, like, looking at myself on screen, I was scared, and I was like, oh, I was also concerned, like, knowing the outcome, like, knowing I'd be getting a runner-up edit. I was, like, concerned. I was like, oh, like, what do they have on me? Like, what? So I was thinking back on, like, all the bad things, but it ended up, like, I thought it was very fair and honest, so that was good. It was good. Yeah. As for like family and friends watching, I told a few. So that was good because I could debrief about sort of the long run. But then also have the satisfaction of the surprise, at different points.
Yeah, totally. So obviously, yeah, you do mention, unfortunately, just got to the end, but unfortunately just missed out on getting that victory. I feel like you played a very good game. How do you feel now that the whole process is done, reflecting on your game? Like, I assume you would be very proud of how you played?
Yeah, for sure. So proud. I think being able to, especially obviously during the day, you're sort of living it vote by vote. Like, obviously had a long-term plan that changed at points, you pivot. So it was nice seeing it kind of all in a neat sort of story. Because obviously on the day, like I remember getting sort of to before Final Tribal and I was like, oh my God, like trying to think back, I was like, this has just gone so fast. So it was nice sort of seeing other things, you've forgotten or didn't know, like the what in the world thing. I had no idea about that advantage. So yeah, it was interesting.
And the last question before I pass it on to Josh and Jordo. Something I felt was very interesting was your decision, was the Pauline decision, deciding after the idle play that I can't go to the end with Pauline. For me, it was interesting because I felt like with the Pauline, like, yes, definitely she would have that 1 point up on you. But I definitely felt like Bethany had a lot of other points of certain people in the jury really liked Bethany, and she had a very innocent game, I felt like. What was, talk to me about that obviously you didn't have a lot of time to just decide. Talk to me about the decision of taking Pauline or going to Bethany and trying to get Bethany out, or even getting Ed out. Like, do you feel like you made the right call in hindsight? Talk to me about that decision.
I suppose in hindsight, I know, Bethany did beat me, so probably, might not have been the right call. I think sort of even further, like way back in the merge, I think I'd already started thinking final three, and I know it was a debate in my head. I was like, I think I say it in the final four tribal when I do vote off Pauline. It's like, do I need to go to the final three with people that I've played a comparable game to, or with two people that I've played a completely different game to that I can distinguish myself from? And in the end, because knowing Bethany and Ed had played like very different games, I knew like the perception of like the young person. I was always wary of not getting credit for the things I did within an alliance. So I just thought it was better to not have anyone to compare to, and just be like, oh, well, hopefully the contrast really helps pull me through.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Jordo and Josh, any questions that come to mind? I'll leave it to you guys.
The whole, you know how you orchestrated the whole Todd thing, and everyone's saying you didn't. Give me your insights about that. How do you feel about them saying sort of, your version of it and their version of it?
I think as in like saying sort of like whether or not like it was my move.
Yeah, was it you who orchestrated the Todd vote off, or someone else and you just claimed it as yours? Basically?
I think it's hard. Yes, I would say it was me. I think, but obviously it's hard. I think if it was the vote before and Todd hadn't won immunity, that would be like hands down my move. But because it's the next round and because so I think the Todd's name is out there because I've been pushing it for 2 votes now. So I think people aren't saying Todd, I think, unless I've already been pushing for Todd's name. I also think, like, obviously we were working with an alliance, like people are doing their own part. Like I think Sab is definitely instrumental, I think, in discussing with Eden and with Bethany to pull them in. as well as Pauline. I also think like right up until that in Final Tribal Council, when Bethany's like, sort of saying like, I've heard multiple things, who's with me? I'm the one that sort of pipes up and I'm like, Bethany, like I'm doing what I said I did. So I think obviously it was a team effort. I like to think it was me, but I think the reality of Survivor, I think obviously like multiple, and then Bethany and Eden are the ones that swing. So I think it's sort of whoever.
I reckon it was you. You did pull his name out a few times randomly out of nowhere. So yeah, you did sort of throw his name in the ring for people to sort of hear the whispers about. So I take it as yours. It's yours.
Thank you. Thank you.
It was rude, but it was yours.
And I wanted to ask, because it was a narrative that, you kept thinking that if you got to the end, you might not have the credibility because you're like the younger person and that. But was it actually said, like, how old actually were you compared to everybody else? I don't know if it was actually said.
Yeah, I was 20 at the time. I think Aiden was, only like actually a little bit older than me, like probably only 1 or 2 years. I'm not actually sure.
What?
So that's what's crazy to me. Yeah, it's crazy to me because I'm like, I think it was just the status, like as the youngest person, because I was the youngest, like I sort of copped a lot of that, that Eden and Aiden maybe didn't as much. And then I think also on the original Yellow Tribe, I was like the youngest by a fair margin. It was like 10 years between me. I think it might have been Ed. I actually can't remember, but it was a solid 9-10 years on the starting tribe.
I think that's also comes down to like just your energy in general is a bit more like a youthful kind of vibe, whereas someone like Aiden is a bit more like quiet, toned down. That can sometimes lead to these issues. I feel like definitely you seem like someone that I even said from the first, like you're someone that I think would be fun to work with. Was that kind of how you portrayed yourself as someone like, like I'm someone that's fun?
I think so. I think not necessarily intentionally. I think I was definitely like, I knew I was young, so I wasn't really hiding it. And I think in terms of overall energy, like I think I was just happy to be there. I was just like excited to be playing. So I think, that definitely would have been come across for sure.
And I wanted to ask, so early on in the season, there was a storyline of like the rivalry between yourself and Andrew, and you were wanting to take each other out. But then that just kind of fizzled out, and then you just seemed to be like tight. And then, so like what happened with that? How did you resolve that?
I don't think it was ever like a resolved thing of us being like, we're good now. It's all fine. I think on the previous tribe, obviously I'd never had a chance to really even try, because by the time I decided he had immunity, the round that I could have gone for him. And I think the reality is I was like work pretty tight with Sab at that time, and I really don't think Sab would have gone for it anyway. So I think it was sort of something that existed in the bounds of confessionals and where I was talking about it. I definitely wanted to, though. I think to me, it's interesting. I actually can't specifically remember, but it seems to me like I wake up on day 2 and something about like sleeping overnight or having the night to think about it. I think I gain awareness of like where I was sitting on original Yellow, because I think there's a moment where I'm like to Pauline and Andrew, I'm like, it's us, like we're at the bottom of our original tribe. So I think I just didn't, something about like having a night to sleep on it and think on it meant I didn't really see Andrew as my number one target at merge. I was like, it's better for us to just stick strong.
Okay.
Talking about final 3, jumping a bit ahead. Going into that, like how were you feeling? Did you feel confident going in? Did you feel like it was a toss up? Where were you at in the odds of yourself taking out the win?
I was pretty nervous before the final 3. I think it was the time factor more than anything. I think it was like I just like backstabbed Pauline, and then all of a sudden like I'm in confessional and it's like, what's your pitch? And I was like, oh my God. So I was definitely nervous, and that was definitely a time factor. I think also a key factor for me, I think the others like, I think as Bethany just said, like, I think the others did have a few locked in votes. Whereas I thought I didn't have any locked in votes. I definitely had votes like Sab, Andrew. I also think like Pauline and Aiden that I was vying for. But I don't think I had the security of being like, I'm 100% sure this person's voting for me. So I think that was definitely, I was sort of nervous about that. But I think I came in, I was like, okay, we just have to say it, like work out a plan quickly and go for it.
Yeah, totally. Any questions, guys?
Where's your iconic hat, mate? You've become an iconic hat and you're not even wearing it.
Yeah, there it is.
Thank you.
There it is.
My question is, why do you wear it so far back?
I think it was just because it flips back. So if it flips forward, it's kind of over my face.
Yeah,
I think when
not
the
just
sun
the
was
flip, but you had it flip, and then towards the first couple of episodes, you had it like further back on your head. I was always like, can you just pull it forward a bit? It annoyed me.
Maybe it was falling.
Oh, maybe. All the sweat.
A fan question from Aston. Who stood out as the biggest threat to you from first impressions?
Probably Loz, to be honest. I think she had the shirt, the old school shirt. I think it was also something that the clue. I remember she like read the clue and then like walked in a really specific direction. And we were like, oh my God. So yeah, probably Loz.
And how did you feel about your advantage? You know, when you won that, because I remember when you read it, you're sort of like, oh, this is a shit advantage. How did you sort of then go with that and take it in your stride and sort of use it to your advantage?
I think I really liked the advantage in the end. Like, I think, obviously, I think the most stressful part, I think, was the sort of like make the decision now. But I think in like, given that, like, I think there was just kind of no other option because I felt like you always needed a majority of 3 in your group of 5 and you needed an option and a backup. I think given like in the moment, I was able to set up like who I wanted gone Todd and also choose John, who I knew Todd would assume we wanted gone. I thought that was good. I think I was just glad that it was a power that was in my hands. Like, and I wasn't the one like ending up in a minority in a different team.
Yeah, nice.
Question here. Oscar, what was running through your mind when Lauren breathed fire down your neck with her final job accounts comments about her perceived view about your game?
I wasn't happy. I think I came into the game, like for me, it was like it's a 2-day game. It's Survivor. It's fun. It's supposed to be fun. Like we also like didn't really know each other. Like it was still the second day of know each other. I think she like went a bit too far. I think like I never got personal. Even though like I'm the one, you know, I like backstabbed a few allies, but I just never made it personal. So I was just a bit disappointed that she chose to.
That was one thing that you did say, like you can't hold grudges, and I liked how you said that because you never did. Even if someone sort of did that to you, you sort of just kept it in your stride and you kept going. And you're like, cool, this is my game. I'm just playing it how I'm playing it. So I admire that. It was good.
The game's the game.
Yeah, I think that's been your kind of attitude throughout the whole experience, which is, I think it leads to a lot more of a positive way to leave. You definitely go out feeling a lot more positive. You don't feel so wound up in like the emotions of the game. Obviously, the loss would have sucked. How was post the game? Was there a lot of what ifs, or did you feel like you kind of had played the game you wanted to play? What was the thoughts post the loss?
I think my biggest what if, which is interesting because watching it back, it was completely different. I really thought I'd completely tanked the final tribal council. Like I really thought I had like a long moments of silence and I was losing my train of thought. And unless Dan edited that away, like it didn't, like I was actually quite happy with it. Like there were obviously moments where I think I could have like gone in further and like given more evidence for what I was saying. But yeah, it was interesting because that was definitely the like sort of the biggest what if for me. Like, oh, what if I'd said this? But then watching it back, I was like, I kind of did. So, so that was kind of, I suppose, satisfying to sort of come back to, like thinking about it for 2 years and then coming back to it and being like, actually, no, that was okay in the end. Like, you didn't have to worry.
I guess when you're sort of put on the spot like that and you're not sure what questions they're going to ask, it would be a bit stressful. So, yeah, you answered them the best you could at the time, and yeah, don't have regrets because at the end of the day, you played how you played and you answered how you could. So, yeah. What would be your favorite moment of the season?
I love the when Todd like wants me to throw the challenge, and I just like have a weak stomach. I'm not even throwing it. I just loved that whole sort of seeing that run it because I wasn't convinced it would like make the edit. I thought it was like quite a small thing. I didn't tell him in game, and I don't actually know if I think like Todd would have to say I don't actually think I told him post game either. So maybe he found out watching.
We love that. We love that. But yeah, so another question that I had was, you had a lot of cool relationships, I feel like, throughout the game, a lot of tight, trios and the duo and the go-to lines. I feel like you had a lot of things going along. Talk about the cast and experiencing that entire process and meeting all those people and just the experience of like working with people like Pauline and all those people that we were close with throughout the game.
Yeah, it was really fun. Like, I think I remember like sitting in our two groups like before we started filming, and like going like, who is going to be like, who are my allies here? Like, or will I have allies? Will I be the first to go? So I think it's fun to think that like, it's crazy. In 2 days, you go from like strangers and then all of a sudden like you're feeling guilty because you made a move against them.
Yeah.
So like, it's crazy to me that, that can happen in that amount of time. And you do, even though you don't have the time behind you, you do have the trust built. Like the trust is real. Like particularly Pauline and Sab, like I think, like before the swap and after the swap and after the merge, like I just really trusted them. So that's crazy in a day.
Quick question here. Did you feel inclined to alarm Pauline because of her hat?
Yeah, it was an easy one. I feel like we were just like, oh, amazing.
If I was in your position, straight away I'd be going, yes. And so to be like, the most easiest in of all time.
I did actually, when we were in our groups, like the same moment, I remember, I did exactly that. I saw the hat and I was like, okay, you. Which is funny.
That's good.
But yeah, so talk to me about the on-set experience. Like, talk to me about working with the crew, just getting cast in general. Like, what was that whole experience like, and being able to represent a season I feel like was a pretty great season, great cast, and Dan and Liv put so much effort in. Talk to me about just the experience with the crew.
Yeah, it was awesome. I'm so like thankful to all the crew, particularly like anyone who was working confessionals. Like I think that was always such a sort of moment. Not outside of the game, you're still doing a confessional, but you could really just be like, oh my God, like this just happened. And so it was really nice to sort of connect with the crew through that. And then, also cast. I remember I didn't know, I was also an alternate. So I think 2 weeks before had found out. So I first met Dan like at my, what do you call it? Like preseason interview. And then I remember like I didn't even know like how much Dan was involved and how much he puts into this. I was like, oh, you're the host. So it's been amazing to find out like just like how much time and effort he puts in. It's just awesome.
So when did you find out that you were in? Tell us that.
I know I can't remember an exact time. I want to say 2 weeks because I had enough time to sort of comfortably like do the intro video and then like sort of prepare, like read the rules and stuff. So I would say 2 weeks. I was in a library when I found out. So, but but timing I don't quite remember.
Yeah, nice.
And how did you find out about Survivor Canberra?
I found out I follow Shannon Gus on Instagram. She at the time posted so I was just like, okay, I live in Canberra.
One final question. We've got season 5 coming up, and then potentially I don't know what Dan's plans is, but potentially an All Stars or something like that. Talk to me. Is there any itch? Is there any scratch? Are we done with LRGs? Are we keen to do one more?
No, I'd love. I said last weekend when we were watching the finale, I'd play every weekend if I could. Like I love it. I think I'd 100% go back. I love it for sure.
I'm pretty confident you're the first person I've asked out of the cast that has been 100% honest, being like, "Yeah, I want to play." Whereas everyone else be like, "Oh, I don't know, I have to see." I'm like, "Yeah, right. You'd be so keen to play."
Yeah.
Well, that's great to hear. I think you'd definitely be a great pick if there was someone discussing All Stars in the future. But yeah, thank you so much for giving us your time. We really appreciate it. I know it's been so long since it's been filmed, and it's a whole different life. So we appreciate you coming on board and giving us your perspective, and we hope to see you in the community in the future.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thank you, Oscar. We'll see you soon.
See ya.
Oh, that was lovely.
He's cool.
We're actually going to disappear for a little bit because, unfortunately, our third very handsome, very car-filled man, Ed, unfortunately was not able to come live to see our bit of faces. So we managed to get Sam and James from last night to do a quick little interview with Ed. So we're just going to play that now, and then we can kind of get their perspectives, and we'll be back in about 20 minutes or so. We ready, guys? Let's get into it.
Any chance to talk about me beating younger teachers in a 100-meter sprint race, mate? I'm 100% in on that one for sure. But I was just saying, despite being a novice, everyone was really, really friendly. Like it's a really interesting community where I kind of rocked up not knowing what I was getting myself into, and you're meeting different characters on there. Like Loz had a tattoo, like a survivor tattoo, and I remember seeing that and being like, "Oh, I'm really out of my depth. I've got no idea what's going on." But everyone was really nice, and the whole crew were really supportive. Like they were making sure I kind of, wasn't too, lost the entire time. I think, which was nice.
Oh, absolutely! Like this community, has some of the best people I know probably in it, and this particularly Survivor Canberra, just a really great community to get around and to be involved in. So you chose well, mate. But talk us through this thought of applying for this game. How did you stumble across it? How did you get into it? What was your thinking behind it?
I'm a sucker for flattery. So the moment I had a couple of people in my life, because you could just draw Venn diagrams around Survivor Canberra, and because of the nature of how small Canberra is, just random people that you wouldn't expect have got something to do with it, or they know someone that's in the community or whatever it might be. So people around me had heard about the show and had watched previous seasons, and they had reached out to me when they were advertising for the third season of applications, and they said, "Oh, you should go for this. You'd be really fun." And that's all I needed to hear was someone saying you would be okay at something, and I was like, "I would be okay at something. I should definitely try and do that." So I sent in a video. I didn't think I was going to get in. I just sent in a video being like, if you want someone that's going to be dumb and not know what's going on the entire time, I'm your man. And clearly Dan was like, "That's our man. We need that guy in this show real bad." So yeah, it was just as simple as someone saying you should do it.
Well,
take the challenge.
You should definitely give yourself more credit than calling yourself dumb, because as we learned throughout the game, I mean, the level of someone like you coming in as a novice, not knowing what the hell this is all about, you're just here for the vibes. The fact that how much you're able to learn and adapt on the fly, and then not only that, but implement it and navigate through the game was simply impressive. Not just as a newbie, but even for fans who know the game. They may not even be able to navigate it and implement it the same way that you did. So huge credit to you. It's phenomenal to watch.
Thanks, James. That's really kind, mate.
Yeah.
It was funny watching this podcast, because you guys would be going I wonder what Ed's strategy is, and I think that was a really smart choice that he did X, Y, or Z. And I would have just thinking back, I was I had no idea what I was doing. And he was I think I was smart by Ed. I'm oh good. I'm glad.
But that just goes to show, I reckon, you obviously have some natural instincts of people awareness, social awareness, connections. You're a fun, personable, energetic guy. Obviously, people are very attracted to that in someone, and so the fact that you were able to just lean into who you are, but while also being aware of like who other people are around you, like,
yeah,
kudos, man. Like I feel like that you really lent into that, and that was your superpower in the game.
Yeah, I think it helped. I think I do like my board games, and a few people on this podcast and around the show have mentioned things like Catan and Risk and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And I reckon, like, if you got that same crew in a board game night, everyone would be pretty much the exact same. Like, they'd all be like, "Oh, let's play Catan," and they'd have the same approach as everyone else in the group. So that helped. And I can see Catan actually in the background behind you right now, Sam.
How good you can.
But yeah, so I think having a bit of backgrounds with like just board games like that, that's the approach I took into it. So I just kind of went like, oh, there's no hard feelings. Everyone's here just to compete and have a fun time, trying to like get the other person. But I'd never actually seen a full episode of Survivor, I think. So there were certain things that came up that took me by surprise.
Yeah, absolutely. I loved like you asking, like being really honest and asking, so what happens if like, what's this rock thing? Like, what do we do there? Or like, you know, like if there's a tied vote, like what do we do? Like, I reckon that was also really great because you could lean into the fact that you didn't know, and you did need to rely on these people to get you through parts of the game, which people love, don't they? They love being relied on. So
that was my approach. I literally went in going like, if I'm just a tool that these people can use, they're not going to vote me out. So if they're just like, Ed's an easy vote that we can manipulate, I'm like, I'll hang around. But even until I watched the show, I didn't realize like, oh, Oscar's put me in the final 3 with him. What a nice thing for him to do. No, he did that because he thought he could beat me at the judgment at the final bit. And I was like, oh, like, I was thanking him and being like, this is great that we get to do it together, mate.
And he's like, no worries, man.
Yeah, he was like, anytime, bud.
I mean, well, you're like everyone. Oh yeah, you know what? I've got these votes in the jury. You can't beat me. Like, you know, I'm unstoppable.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I didn't know that with the jury, you actually had to kind of make a statement and talk about it. I understood. I think I picked up as we were going through the game, like there's a jury and the people that get voted off will kind of dictate who wins. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like maybe they'll just get together and have a chat at the end and work out who to go. And they're like, oh, so what are you going to tell them? And I suddenly like, oh no, it's like high school and not being prepared for the presentation all over again.
Oh, and just like, congratulations on making the final 3. Like that is no easy thing to do. Like I know that Oscar obviously wanted you there with him, but can I just say the way that you handled Final Tribal Council, like I know that you probably didn't know what to expect in terms of the structure of and format of what was to take place, like the formalities. But your arguments, Ed, I feel like were really good. And I was like, and I say this like in a very supportive way. Like I was actually surprised because a lot of newbies who play this game and who aren't aware of what takes place, they really do fumble at the end and fumble quite hard, where I actually feel like you gained ground. Like I feel like people loved you as a person, but I feel like what you had to say really cemented some strategy in people's minds too.
If you go back and watch it, you can see people like Todd try to like, Todd's a real teacher, and you could see that in the way he was like, Ed, yeah, that was really a good response. And I like that you've also done these things in your game as well. You kind of like gave me a bit of a helping hand. Like, we'll get you that pass, mate. Don't you worry.
That was very
one thing, Ed, you touched on in your speech was fantastic, which was that it was a little bit of like pandering to the jury in a way in terms of, well, I was once an apprentice and then you guys were the masters, but now I've kind of overtaken you. I kind of want to deep dive into a little bit what you feel like the key lessons you learned from, people like your Loz and your Todd, along the way, or anyone else that you played with.
I think Loz and Todd, obviously, and I don't think it's any secret, I was like attaching myself to those two the entire time. And they were just nice enough to kind of take me under their wing and let me in, like give me some insight into what they were thinking. And they were just always looking for threats in the early game. But it wasn't until watching the show again that I realized, like, oh, you should be trying to make kind of statement moves as well, because that's impressive by the end of the game. And I was kind of in the mindset of like, let's just get to the end, and I'll just be there at the end kind of thing. Whereas the people like Oscar went to make big plays, for example, and I think that actually really helped him in the end. And I was like, oh yeah, that is a cool move, and it shows that they're thinking with a bit of foresight. Whereas I was just every vote. It was just I'm worried about this next vote coming up, this next vote coming up. So yeah, I think watching the show again, that's one of the lessons I've seen from that. But yeah, Loz and Todd were just really threat focused when I was talking to them. It's who should we worry about, and we can get the votes now to get rid of them early. So let's get rid of this person now, so we can worry about the others a bit later on.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I think it was a really cool way that you brought that across in your final tribal. So yeah, just well done there, man. I liked also, obviously, the start of the game. Were you aware of like alliances and the importance of what connectedness in this game was about? And depending on how you looked at it, like, yeah, how did you go about it? Like, how did you approach it just straight off the bat?
I think I knew that alliances were a big deal. That's something I went in knowing. I was like, I know I need to kind of build a crew so that I can stay in with that and we can vote out other people.
Yeah.
But it was surprising when I was playing the game, because I went in being like, it's a board game and I'll stab people in the back. I don't care. Yeah. You build a very strong connection with these people really quickly. And when you do need a jump ship, or when you do need to actually go like, oh, I'm going to vote for John now. I adored John. John was my boy. And when I was like, we're voting for John, I was like, oh, like my memory of it, I was like, yeah, I did it with no problem. And we're watching the show, and I'm having a mental breakdown on the show about the fact that I had to vote this guy out. It was, it was genuinely really hard to do, but. Absolutely. Yeah, so I think that was the one thing I had going in, was I was like, I know I need to be in an alliance. That's something like I can't just be by myself. I need to try and build connections with these people. And I think being a novice helped with that a bit as well. So I need someone to show me the ropes, or I'm definitely not going to survive for the first vote.
Absolutely. And so who did you feel the closest to, like the most connected to at the start? Was it what we saw on the screen, or was there some different thoughts around there?
Yeah, I think Dan captured it really well. I think it was Loz and Todd. At first, I was a bit worried about Loz. I was like, oh man, like maybe we should get rid of this person. But when she started just like helping me, I was like, oh no, I'm gonna attach myself to these two as long as I can. And honestly, it dragged me through the first half of the game. I think that first entire day was me just kind of like coming up to them and going, so what are we going to do now? And they're we'll vote for this person. Absolutely, we'll vote for that person. No problem at all. Let's go get them.
Absolutely. But they, as much as you needed them, they also needed you. They needed someone loyal in their corner. So as in like, it was mutually beneficial. That's for sure. So, which was very cool. Later on in the game, now where was I going with this question? You mentioned something that I was going to attach to, but
I've mentioned so many things, so I'm rambling.
No, this is good.
I'm going to watch the podcast and be like, oh, Ed, shut up.
No.
Well, while you're collecting your thoughts, Sam, I do have to ask you, Ed. So when you sort of came in as like a survivor novice, have you come out of it becoming, turning yourself and slowly evolving to a survivor super fan, watching few seasons, or are you kind of like, or is this like the only season you've watched?
You guys gotta hate me. It's the only season I've watched. It's appalling. It's having watched the show, and now that it's done, I've actually really enjoyed it. And I was thinking with my wife, I was like, oh, maybe we should just pick a random season of Survivor, because I think you can get them pretty easily. Like they're on a streaming service somewhere, 9 now or something like that, maybe. But like, I was like, maybe we should just pick one and we should watch it. And she's seen a fair bit of Survivor too, and she's like, yeah, we should. Idiots. Maybe we should have done this 2 years ago, mate.
But awesome. Well, if we just think about you started really closely with obviously Loz and Todd, and we actually saw you getting more confident like throughout the game as the game went on, just on your standing and being able to think about things a little bit differently and learning off the people around you of what you could do and what was possible. So what what do you think changed for you in the second half of the game? Like after merge, we saw you obviously stay really close to those people, but you were willing to sort of detach and sort of like change things up a little bit. So what was going through your mind at that point of the game?
Oh, it was like classic overconfidence. Just like being around it for half an hour. I'm like, I think I get it. I think like, I'm ready to flap my wings and leave the nest. Let's have a go. It was also my biggest thing was I just want to get to the end. So the moment I felt like a change in the wind, and I realized if I stay with this person, I can't keep surviving. I was like, well, time to go. So hence why I voted for Loz. Like once Todd was gone, I was like, well, Loz can't save me anymore. So time to go. But I don't think I made it clear to anyone that I was voting for her. So really, I didn't have to vote for her at all. I could have at least stayed loyal to her.
Yeah.
Hindsight's been pretty hectic for watching.
For sure. Is there anything other than that Loz vote like that hindsight has given you? Like you're like, oh, if only, or oh, I see it a bit different now, or
I would have handled the jury differently. I think watching that again, I was like, I should have made X, Y, and Z points. There's better examples, but I think you're at the end of these 2 days, you're kind of exhausted. And then they're going like, explain your moves. And you're like, I can barely think straight right now. And I've just listened to Beth and Oscar like make these really great points. Yeah. And I'm still trying to work out what I need to say. You kind of forget all these points that you should have made. And, it's one of those things where a bit of preparation would have really gone a long way, I think.
For sure.
Yeah, I think it's funny, like watching the podcast as well gives you a bit of hindsight because you guys would raise points. And I'd go, oh, that's a really valid point. Like, that's great. I think at one point you guys were going like, oh, it's really good that Ed found out that Eden was voting for him and he just didn't care. Like that was really grown up and like mature of him. And then the very first scene of the next episode, I'm going off about how like Eden, I'm going to go for him now. Just undoing any kind of tactical showmanship I had whatsoever.
But it's a new round. It's a new vote. So, I mean, those things are possible, like as long as you cement it for the previous one. So, no, that's so good. And it is wild. Like I said,
I'm curious.
Yeah, go, James. Sorry. You go, James.
Sorry. No, you go, Sam. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's all right. Well, so I was just saying with Final Tribal, like last night, I was talking about the fact that it's the final three have like the hardest job in the whole entire world because you have zero time to reflect. You have zero time to like actually bounce off with anyone who's not in the game. And so, you don't have the ability to understand your game enough to know what I need to say and not say to the jury who have been talking amongst themselves and know exactly what their perception of you is. Like you don't even know what they think of you. So I'm like, it is literally the hardest position to be in to win this game. And
there was a moment where I was seeking assistance from Beth and Oscar, and they're so reluctant to tell me anything. So what are we doing? And they're like, oh, just like hanging out. The jury's going to be there. It won't matter.
Yeah.
Well, what I'm curious to know, Ed. So at the final tribal council, if obviously it was a very close game, everyone kind of got votes. But if, say, one of your votes was, say, an Oscar vote instead, it would have been a tie between Bethany and Oscar. I'm sort of curious to hear what your sort of thoughts would have been in the moment, in hindsight, as to who you would have voted for to break the tie.
I think, again, if it was in the moment, before I watched the show, I would have given Oscar my vote because I still would have been like, oh, it's so nice that he put me on the final three with him. Not knowing that that's actually kind of like I want you because I think I can beat you kind of thing. I think having watched the show, I can see there were episodes and you guys pumped the tires up and it was a really valid point. Like there was an episode where she just swung the whole thing. Felt like she was in this really vulnerable place and just managed to go like, no, we're not doing that. And just managed to manipulate everything to go her way. She played a really good game. I think she deserved the win for sure. So in the moment, it would have been for Oscar. But after watching the show, I would have voted for Beth, hands down. I think she played a really, really great game.
Yeah, if you had to summarize, just like Bethany as the winner of your season, the season that sort of like she represents you guys now, and so like, how would you describe it? How like both in the game and now afterwards? Like, what would you say?
Oh, she was really fun. It's a shame there wasn't any footage of her. Like, they're kind of, because you'd have these moments where you're just having a conversation that isn't game focused. And she was really into astrology, and she's like asking about our star signs and explaining what that means and how that helps us in the game. Like, she was really, like, genuinely very sweet and nice, and had a very strong mum vibe the entire time. So I'm glad she's representing us as the winner of season 3. I think it was well earned. She played a good game, and I think in those chats where it wasn't about the game, you forgot that you were competing against her, and I think that was a bit of a strength of hers, is that she could kind of turn it on and off really easily, and I think that worked quite well for her. Obviously, it started having some emotional tolls on her that I wasn't really too aware of. Like, you can see in the background when she's having a candid conversation, she's like, I'm getting really upset by all this, and I'm blissfully ignorant of everything that's going on, and that was fun.
Literally, like I loved the scene of like you and Pauline. Like, Pauline's just come from this like emotional confessional, and you're just like Energizer Bunny, like just like bopping up and down, and you're like, oh, like it was just like, but that's how you approach the game, because you approached it as a game, right? And so I don't blame you for being like that at all. But it was just very funny to see different approaches to the same situation.
It must have been infuriating and so annoying for the other people around me. Like, it's like fun in small doses, but I think having spent 2 days with me, you'd be like, that's enough, mate. Like, why don't we just just sit down?
Not only that though, but while everyone else is also, they're getting drained and getting filled with adrenaline, and you're getting like the sugar hits from like the auction and the final 5 cookies, and you're like,
I ate so much food. And that's another thing I need to show. That cake, I ate all of that. I gave some slices away and ate in that one sitting. I was sitting there because I'm pretty sure I asked at one point, I was like, can I take this? And they're like, no. So I just shoving cake down. And then I slammed the protein shake. I was genuinely feeling ill for an hour after that, because I was just like, I need to eat, because I was so hungry the entire time. I was like, this will get me somewhere. Like, let's go. So, like, I ate so much more food than anyone there. I indulged in as much eating as I could. And at one point, the jury came and sat down there eating pizza, and I was so angry with them. As angry as I was in the entire show is when they're eating pizza in front of me.
That's so good. Well, Ed, would you play again? Like, if you got the chance to play this one more time, would it be a yes?
Yeah, I want to do it better. I want the win. Like, there's nothing like getting a silver dirty silver to make you want to get the gold, right? So I'd absolutely play again.
Yeah, well, we've loved having you on our screens, and I don't know if I speak on behalf of everyone, but like, it feels like we're like friends just through the way that you played the game, and like, it feels like we know you more than you know any of us, because you just gave so much of yourself, I feel, to the camera and just your personality. So thank you for being willing.
Because it's pretty simple. We can clearly understand what Ed's thinking about right now, so it's all good kind of thing.
No, but just thank you for being yourself through this process and letting us into a little bit of your world. So thank you.
Of course, mate. No, thanks for giving me the time.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. I just want to obviously reiterate that as well. Like, you're a fantastic presence, and I've said on the podcast a couple of times, and I've said, like, we've had conversations with people about the game, that when with how you sort of came across and how you presented yourself, and it was just that you're truly like one of a kind. And I don't think the season and the energy would have. It would have still been amazing, but I definitely think you added like another layer to it, which was enjoyable to watch. So
you guys have been so kind. Like, this podcast has been so genuinely nice. But you've even like been gentle around being like, he's a bit of a buffhead, but he's friendly. You've all been so kind to me the entire time. I've watched the episodes, and you're like, I think Ed's actually thinking about something right now.
Yeah, no, we actually gonna stop the recording. We're actually gonna be like, yeah, and whatever we say, just disregard. You were shit, like you.
No way.
But Ed, been awesome, so I really appreciate it,
mate. It's our pleasure. But is there any final thoughts from you? Anything else you want to get off your chest before we end this interview?
It was the weirdest weekend of my life, and I had a really fun time.
Both of those things make total sense. As two people, James and I have both played in these before. And so as two people who have done that, that completely makes all the sense in the world.
You've got like no idea what you're walking into. Like, and it was genuinely exciting. Every time we'd walk up to the next thing, you'd be like, "What is it?" Like, I can't wait to see what they've got for us this time.
Well, Ed, the challenge beast, the guy who no one has a bad word to say about, like, legend. Thank you for joining us. We really
and the most annoying at the same time.
I shared that with Pauline at least. It wasn't just me.
Well, thanks, Ed. Appreciate it, mate.
Thanks so much, guys. I had a great time.
Well, there we go.
There
Ed,
we
the
are.
fantastically handsome man. Well, that was nice. I really enjoyed the interview. I
There
feel
were
like
no
Ed's very
quads.
wholesome.
There were
Very
no
wholesome.
quads.
Yeah, no quads. No quads, unfortunately. He was doing a waist up interview, unfortunately.
I think
But
Ashton
hey,
has gotten bigger though, and I think he has. Those biceps are huge.
I definitely saw a few comments. Ed wanting to play again. Yes, I love that he wants to play again. Big fan of that. We got Ed was just like a friendly Labrador the whole weekend. There we go. Loves Ed Survivor Discovery Journey third season. Big fan if he plays again. I 100% agree. I think he's definitely someone that has untapped potential, which is exciting. Are we ready, guys, to get to the viewer awards?
Oh, look
Oh,
at that.
whoa!
Hey, see? The fireworks have come out. The awards are here.
That
I
was one of
couldn't
the
have
funniest
planned that
moments on the pod.
Oh, that's so funny.
Are we ready? The viewer
I'm
awards.
excited.
Shout out Nick Otter for organizing this little presentation for us. Thank you to the people for voting. We're super
I
excited.
voted.
You voted.
Me
I
too.
voted. I voted. A few of my winners
Do we know how
won.
many voted? Do we know how many votes there were in total?
10 million votes, Jordan.
I
10
imagine that.
million
Just
votes.
an idol.
It was insane.
Wow.
It was insane. The most votes ever in an award show. No, unfortunately, we do have the stats of like percentage breakdowns of the top three. Do any top three for each category and give you a little breakdown of each. But I'm looking forward. I want to hear. So, if anyone that's in the comments, we're going to throw out a little 15 seconds for you to guess. I want you to predict who it's going to be. We got Ma here with a shout out. Yeah, Nick did it. The amazing man, Nick Otter. What a legend. But here we go. First up, we got best episode title. Best episode title. Do we have any? Do you have any ones that come to mind? Do we have any ones that we think will win? Any comments?
What's the Andrew one? That one about the
that could be a
dodo. The dodo thing.
Oh, the possum thing.
Yeah. So the dodo strategy was one.
Yeah.
Possum magic was another.
Sociopath.
Yeah, I like this. I voted the sociopath one. Love that.
All right. Well, this is the top three. In third, we got the dodo strategy. Shout out Andrew for that. Fantastic. In second, we have Possum Magic by Andrew. But not only does she win the season, she wins the first award. Bethany.
Hey! We literally just said all three of those just then. we need an award now.
I may have had two of them in front of me to say out when you guys were asking for them, but hey, we look how smart we are. 24% of the votes were for the winner. My husband thinks I'm a sociopath, so congratulations to Bethany. I'd argue this is probably a bigger award than actually winning the entire thing, so I assume she's probably crying right now. Unfortunately, we don't have acceptance speeches because they'll go too long.
Hang on,
So
I'll just give them fireworks if I can do it. There we go. There's their award.
I'm so confused by that. But anyway, we move on. Funniest moment. Do we have any? What comes to mind when we think of funniest moment?
Oh, God, I can't remember who I voted for that.
Oh,
there's a few options there. We have. I'm trying to think. There is a few. Just in general, Andrew. Just in general, Ed. Just in general, Oscar. I feel like they've all people. And any people, any comments, guys? Squins jelly. Yep, that's a great shout.
croissant.
The background matches your jacket, Jordan, from Mel.
Yeah.
The croissant is a classic. Let's see what the fans say. In third place, we got Ed breaking the prop. That's a classic moment there. Loz's exit confessional is a good answer from Mel. We got what a
I think I voted that.
Mel with Loz's exit confessional. I thought that was a funny moment, but topping the list was Pauline's croissant.
Yes. Actually, that's who I did vote for after all that.
It's won 2 things now. Congratulations, Pauline.
That's so funny.
The croissant's got 2 wins over you. The Mar Mountain win and now funniest moment.
Look at that.
You
There's
like
her award. Here it comes.
Croissant was a
There it
clear
is.
winner, by the way. Oh, there we go. Shout out the croissant.
I feel
Quacky
like
is very keen on it.
if there's a Canberra All Stars, we need a stale croissant to be like an advantage or an idol or some kind of like
carry it the entire time. It's a public idol.
It could be the immunity idol.
Yeah.
You get given that each time you win. Yeah.
Best move. Do we have any thoughts for the best move? I feel like some of the discussions could be Pauline's idol play. It could probably be the the odd vote out.
The idol, but then
the Eden idol play. There's quite John's flip. Any comments, guys? Any guesses for best move before we reveal?
There were too many, and I think I wrote that in my answer. I just couldn't choose. So let's see what everyone else has decided. I'm excited.
Royalty in the house, Lisa. The croissant was hilarious, but also good strategy. The croissant got more time than half the cast. Anyway, we're going to reveal it. We go. James with the guest. The table slipping on John for best move. John flipping for best move. Bethany convincing Laws to vote John out. Let's see what the reveals are. So first off is Pauline's idol play is third. I think that was definitely a top 3 moment there. We got John flipping on Anthea, but then John got flipped. Bethany and Eden flipping the vote on John is the best move for this season. I probably agree. Sorry, John.
Yeah.
Rough. But anyway. Moving on, most quotable player. I think this could be the easiest answer of all time.
If it's not Andrew, then there's something wrong.
Guesses, guys? This person, if it helps you guys, had 67% of the votes.
Wow.
It's Andrew. Right?
So in third, we got Lauren. In second, we got Oscar, which I thought was surprising. But clearly at the top.
Hey!
The greatest LRG player of all time, in my opinion. I'll stand on business for that. But yes, fantastic, iconic player. Love, 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 Andrew. You're in the mix as well, Josh, by the way. I saw that look. You're in the mix as well. Best pre-merge player. What were the other 33% doing, says Mal. I honestly don't know, Mal. Clearly watching something else. No Ed Croissant. I don't think Ed was a quotable player, Quacky, and I don't think Croissant can speak. So I know you're angry. Unfortunately, we'll have to let that slide. Best pre-merge player. There's actually a lot of options for this. You know, you've got Spin, you have even John, obviously, I guess could count as pre-merge. You have Amy, you have Jay with the iconic quote.
Maddie.
Yeah. Who would you guys guess be for the best pre-merge player? Maddie?
I think Maddie had the social game more. She just got a bit swap screwed.
What about you, Jordan?
Yeah, probably the same.
Well, the fans disagree with you because Maddie comes in at third.
Oh, well, she's still in there. Still top.
Still in there. Fantastic player. Definitely love to see her play again. Fingers crossed. Next up is Anthea, which I thought was good. Loved the love for Anthea. I thought she was fantastic. Super underrated. Hopefully, I'm glad she wasn't forgotten near the end. I thought she was very iconic when she was on. It's a tie for the first, though. Amy and Squin.
Yay, Squin.
Amy.
Squin. I know she's in this chat, I think, right now. Shout out Squin. Shout out Amy as well. Super glad they got the recognition. But yeah. Do we have another thumbs up? Do we have another fireworks, Jordo?
Oh, here we go. Yep. Sorry.
There
we go. Woo! I'll keep it up longer because there's 2 of them. Oh, we got sparkles now too. There we go.
Okay, player we'd most like to see return.
Oh,
this is a tough one for me.
I want to know.
James Wolf said this in our chat, and I 100% agree. And I'm calling out Dan, or whoever made this stupid poll. Should have been multiple choice. At least a top 3. My God. Picking one was ridiculous.
I wonder if my
I voted for.
Who did you guys vote for?
I need to see probably like the most iconic villain in LRGs that I can remember. Loz has got to be up there.
I voted for Amy because she got voted out too early and she kept herself in that game as long as she could. So I want to see her actually play it properly, not just sitting in that bloody swamp.
I'd say Eden or Loz.
Yeah, we got a few options here. We got I couldn't vote for the song, so I had to vote for Ed. We have Ed and Johnny to come back. We got John, fingers crossed. We got Squin thanking our beloved viewers. Definitely Loz. Let's look at the results. First up, Sab and Oscar.
Nice.
In total, they got 9.3% of the votes. We then got John. A lot of love for John, 13%. But there was 2 people tied at the top. And they were probably the icons of the seasons, Loz and Eden. Fantastic work from both of them. Congratulations. Hopefully we'll see them again.
Things right. Oh, now I've got thumbs up.
There we go.
There we go. Keep it till the sparkles come. There we go. Doubles.
Best alliance. What do we got? So we got Bethany and Eden, Pauline and a croissant. We had Eden, Loz. We had the Goat Alliance. We had a lot of options. So what do you think the best alliance?
On the pre-merge 4, Eden, Maddie, Bethany, and Anthea. They were pretty iconic in the early game.
We've got a few options here. Pauline, croissant, Eden, Bethany, easy. Loz and Ed, iconic. Johnny Boy. Oh, look at this. Apparently it's rigged. Quacky is a cute. This is some hate coming from Quacky right now.
Who is Quacky?
Quacky is a loyal fan of this podcast that disagrees with me on the placement of Ed on a certain mountain. But anyway, let's reveal the answers for this one. There was quite a few good options here. Maddie, Anthea, Ed, and Bethany, classic, iconic pre-merge alliance. I feel like they could have gone way further if a bit of luck went their way. Next up, we have the classic Oscar, Pauline, and Sab, loyal throughout the end until they all cut each other apart. But I think there's only one option for the top. This one ended up getting 48% of the votes. Bethany and Ed, and I think clearly they were the big 2 throughout. Loyal to the end, cutting each other out at the end. Love a classic duo.
Yeah.
Next up, best villain. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure who'll win this one.
Come on, this has to be like 80% vote for Loz. Like, come on.
65% of the votes were for this person. Any guess? Any guesses, guys? My queen. I wonder who that could be, Eden. I really have no idea. We're going to reveal. So, John. I thought John's a villain, but hey, I respect John on any podium. We got Oscar, obviously. I think the king of backstabbing, but I think there's only one person on this list ever in consideration. It's Lauren. Queen. Love it. Second place for Eden, though. Wow, yeah. I definitely was surprised that Eden didn't get on the list, at least on the podium.
Yeah.
Best hero, opposite. I think we just spoke to him potentially. That's who I voted for. What do we think?
I can't remember who I voted for.
Ed was pretty likable.
So this was
I can't say a bad word about him, really.
This was tighter. The winner did get 35%. And so Bethany at third, Sab at second.
Hey, nice.
I think he's just so lovable. It's for me, it's an argument if you don't like Ed, then that's something wrong with you, because he's a lovely guy. He seems like a guy that you'd love to have a beer with. We got Survivor Canberra here with Eden was the anti-hero. I 100% agree. Someone you'd love to root for. Amy was robbed, I fear. I also semi-agree. I think maybe she definitely deserved to be on the podium a little bit. Season MVP. Season MVP. This is a big award. Essentially, it's the Seer Award. The player that played the best. May not, obviously every winner deserves to win, but this person was the star of the show. Who do we think it is? I obviously have my bias towards who I think it is, but there's a lot of options.
Would say Eden for me.
Yeah? What do you think, Jordo?
I can't even remember who I voted for. I'm not going to say.
I like it. So who we got? We got Dan for MVP. We got Eden 110%. We got Croissant. We got Queen Bee. A lot of options here. We got Eden. So let's reveal it. I think this is the biggest award of the night. Third place is Bethany. She unfortunately doesn't get the double up of MVP and Survivor winner. Next up, we got Lauren. I think it's a very good list. And topping the list is Eden.
Yeah.
Eden, I think, 100% deserves to be the MVP. I think he was involved in everything. Pretty much every episode had him as a top 3 contributor to strategy and social.
Yeah.
Very
Didn't they say
deserving.
that he
Proud.
was in every episode? He was the only one in every episode.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty confident he never had a quiet episode, which is impressive. That's the end of the awards. Shout out to all the nominees, all the award winners. Kind of annoyed that I didn't get nominated or voted for anyone, but hey, you know, that's a whole different story. I'm just a big baby. But congratulations to Eden, to Bethany, to Ed, to Squin, to Amy, all the winners. We have a little website with all the awards and stuff from previous seasons and votes and all that kind of stuff. And I know they'll update that at some point, and you'll be able to see your name up on a permanent chart. Shout out again to Nick for this incredible presentation.
Yeah, he does well. Good on you, Nick.
Is it my mountain level? You know, it's debatable.
I thought we were moving on from that, Marcus.
I'll never move on, Jordo. It's my one and only calling. You know,
Just like that croissant, we've got to let it go. Pauline, let the croissant
you
go.
guys
We've
are
got
all
the
leaving after this. When the podcast is done, you guys leave. I stick around. I wait till next season. I clean up the cups and I, clean up the comments and wait for everyone else to come back. But unfortunately, this is the end.
This is it.
We also got a thing here from Mal. Nominees for Final Podcast of the Year, Marcus, Jordan, and Josh. Congratulations on this one, Marcus. I actually did put that comment up without reading the final sentence. So that was a fun little surprise for myself.
That's so funny.
But yes, this was the end of not only the season, but the last time I'll speak to you guys ever again.
Oh, thank God for that. Just jokes.
No, we'll speak again, but this is the last time we'll speak on this with this lovely cloud background, with the Backbenchers podcast logo in that top next to Jordo. And I've had a blast personally. Josh and Jordo, talk to me about your experience on the pod, your experience watching this season, and how you feel now that it's all wrapped up.
Oh, well, it's my first podcast I've done, so it was quite daunting at first, but it's fun just sitting there chatting and giving your opinion. But yeah, the whole season was great. I was on the edge of my seat, and I always had to sort of avoid all the chat groups and stuff because I couldn't always watch it straight away. So, when I could, I'd sit there and watch it and then, go back to everyone afterwards. But yeah, it was a good season, good cast. I wish it went a bit longer, actually.
Yeah, I would agree. It's been amazing. I loved watching season 2, and then I had high hopes for season 3. And I'm like, season 2 was amazing. Can it be topped? And I won't pick one over the other, but they were both amazing. And yeah, it's really nice to have my opinion be valued and be invited to share my thoughts. And, looking at the comments, there's all people that, I've met before in the community around and stuff. So it's just, good to have us all supporting each other. And so, just have a great time together.
Yeah. Thanks for having us on, Nick and Nat, for organising it all. It's been an awesome couple of months.
Yeah, a few thank yous. So shout out to Nick Otter for being the one that organises this podcast every week, putting a lot of trust in us to smash this out every week and so much. Shout out to Sam Green, who kind of has been helping me with hosting throughout the pod. He's been excellent and amazing, and his insight's way better than mine, so it's been helpful to have that occasionally throughout the weeks. Shout out to everyone else that's helped out. There's a lot of great people. Just from my head, Deli and Richie and Jordo and Josh and Michael from previous seasons. We had Amy. We had a bunch of amazing people on. So shout out to everyone. I know we'll definitely do some thank yous later. Thank you so much for Dan and Liv for an amazing season, and the community for checking us out every week. The fact there's 23 people still watching an hour 40 in is super impressive, and it just shows how committed this community is. I love how we can just yap about the most smallest random weekend that happened 2 years ago and talk about it for a whole 3 months. I know there's a bunch of people in here that are purely in this community because of Canberra. I'd implore you to go and check out the other ones. Josh has a fantastic season, Backyard season 4. I'm literally rewatching it right now. I know Dan will be okay with me saying this because he loves the community, but there's so many other communities around. Backyard Survivor has just started releasing their cast introduction, their season. Survivor One World One Well is coming. I'm super excited for it. That'll be coming hopefully late this year, early next year. We have Melbourne Survivor having their most recent season, Uncharted Waters, coming out early next year, most likely. Fingers crossed. We have Sydney Survivor in the works. We have a lot of things coming next year, and we'd hope that you guys can all stick around. Check out the other podcasts, check out the other LRGs, and let's get this community pumping again. I think a big year's coming. Thank you so much for Josh and Jordo for coming along with me. And I think it's a massive privilege to have this opportunity to talk on this lovely platform. We'll have some beautiful new people taking our places next year, which is super exciting. And we love seeing you guys. And thank you so much. And we'll see you guys very, very soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Peace out.